So, welcome back, everyone. Here we are once more for the third edition of the Walking Wickets podcast. I'm joined again by my two proteges, Meathead Dickens and James the Walking Wicket Watson. Unfortunately, we're going to start on a pretty somber note this week due to the tragic passing of Shane Warne. But, we're going to try and be quite upbeat about it because, we're going to try and celebrate his passing. Well, not his passing, that sounds bad, celebrate his career. Yeah, pretty tragic stuff. Fellas, do you want to just say a few things on his career and how much of a cricketing icon he was?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely dreadful news of his passing. Remember, he's the kind of guy. He's the guy who got me into the game, got me into leg spin especially. Obviously, I don't bowl it very well, but it's it counts, isn't it? Yeah, little things. I remember reading his book when I was on my French exchange, and it was the only bit of English I had all week, and it was got me through. So yeah, no, massive loss to the cricketing community.
I think, yeah, his death's tragic, of course, but then I think gives us a chance to remember him a bit and just all the great stuff he did. I've just the whole today I've just been watching his 2005 stuff, which is great, and then him making Strauss look like a plonker by bowling it 15 meters outside off stump and hitting leg. Also, him batting is hilarious as well. He's got one of the most village techniques, and yet he can still bash people around. And then obviously his ball in '93, that's iconic. I know, but because Warne, just his character on the field, I absolutely love it and watch his highlights. And also his documentary just came out, which makes the whole thing a bit suspicious, but that's for the police, I think.
Yeah, I think it's important to say, he wasn't just a cricketing legend. He transcended the game in many ways. People across the world will be mourning his death just because he was so special. And he's such an incredible sort of life force just to not be around anymore. And it was so shocking. And, I'm sure there's so much sadness around the world, as there should be. But yeah, he was an incredible player, incredible person.
Just to show how he was so much more than cricket, I think just recently, so I think the Australian government asked his family if they wanted a state funeral, which is normally only reserved for, the Queen is obviously going to be a state.
There's big dick energy about that.
On the same level as the Queen, but he was a pretty big deal, and he wasn't just cricket. He was Australia. So yeah. Very sad.
Right, should we get on to brighter and better things now we've got that out of the way? So our first item on the agenda today is the ongoing test match between Pakistan and Australia. And I'll start this off by quoting The Grade Cricketer, which from their podcast earlier today. They were talking about the song Baby Shark. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, and drawing comparisons to the pitch over in Pakistan. It is fucking flat. Fucking flat. I'll throw some stats out there for you. I think there was there's been 750 runs in 3 days with the loss of only 6 wickets. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, one of which was a run out, so that doesn't even.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's exciting to see Test cricket back in Pakistan since Sri Lanka had their attack in 2007. But, Pakistani fans are probably the most loyal in the world. They want a spectacle, and they don't want to see it's just boring. It's boring cricket. And Joe, as you said to me earlier, Test cricket is more interesting when the ball is on top. And at no point has the bowling side exerted any pressure on the batting side whatsoever. Absolute dead rubber, waste of time.
Imam is the most bang average cricketer I've ever seen. And if he's making 160, I'm sorry, then... And also, Aussie bowlers, they have made the English batsmen look so shit now. I know there were difficult pitches in the Ashes, but if they can't even get Imam out, then there's something wrong with them.
But, to be fair, I think, Dickens, I reckon you can make a ton on that pitch.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. It's a joke.
It's also, this test match kind of weirding me out. So, normally in Pakistan, you're thinking of, hot, sweaty, stinky conditions, reverse swing, turning meters. And here, I was looking at the weather in Pakistan. It's 17 degrees. They're all wearing jumpers. It just doesn't seem right. Ball's not moving. There's no.
I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for 35 degrees. Your love affair with Shaheen Afridi, all that good stuff, reverse swing and shit. But instead, we got literally a day at Scarborough. It's 17 degrees and it's flat. He didn't even get the swing. It was the worst of both worlds, and it was that bad that I actually started watching the India game instead, and that was equally as bad. But that's not a topic of conversation here.
Also, late last night, late on day 2, Pakistan had just declared. Babur had done the big balls move of doing the old wolf whistle to bring him in, which I thought was pretty cool, bringing back the Michael Clark.
Yeah.
And then Australia came out for 1 over, and I was thinking, all right, we're going to have some of that Shaheen Shah in duckers, castling over batsmen for fun. And then they put on Sajid Khan for 1 over at the end.
He's bowling it like facing the batsman.
Yeah, it's such a joke. Unbelievable.
Is there something wrong with him? Because I've never seen anything like it ever. I don't think it's humanly possible to bowl spin like that, because I know shit all about cricket, but you have to be side on.
I think that helps us to move on a bit into the India-Sri Lanka series, which, it was just as shit a test match, really. So one-sided. Obviously Sri Lanka cricket has been, ever since Sangakkara and Joe Farndale retired, they've been shocking, quite frankly. Even England were able to beat them at home, and now they've gone to India and they've been spanked.
I think as good as India are, you can't look past the fact that Sri Lanka are just shite. Like, they're so bad. The scorecard speaks wonders. India declared 574 for 8, and then Sri Lanka 174 all out and 178 all out. That's just shit. Where's the fight in that? That gives off England vibes.
But it's similar. I would say I made a comment quite at the beginning of the second episode, which I would say again. There's a bit of a rude word, but I'm not going to say it again. But it was similar to that. It was. I don't know what's a good synonym for it. It was a whitewash, except it was one game. It was quite painful to watch. Like, Sri Lanka are actually the most pathetic cricketers I've ever seen. Like, even England put up some sort of a fight in India because they weren't the worst pitch in the world, were they? Like,
well, apart from the one in the day-nighter, that was
Ahmedabad.
Yeah, that was.
That wasn't cricket though. That match just wasn't cricket. It was like a different sport, just made for that ground. Just embarrassing.
One takeaway though, Jadeja just proving his class yet again.
So he got 175 and took 9 for, but he didn't get the 210 for, so he's just shit.
I wouldn't pick him in the England side. Exactly, just class above.
You got to think to yourself, like Jack Leach, nearly got 100 at Lords. Has Jadeja got 100 at Lords? No. Well, neither has Jack Leach, but Jack Leach just looks better at the crease. Jadeja's, how many times has he done it? He's done it, half dozen times. Leach has done it once, but I prefer Leach. I prefer Leach's 92 at Lords every day of the week. So, I think Jadeja's overrated, to be honest. And plus, it's Sri Lanka as well. Like, again, Watson, you could have scored a ton against that Sri Lankan attack. Like,
no, he couldn't.
Unless they bowled straight.
Yeah, if they put one on the stumps, you'd be backing away. But
the trigger to leg is not always effective against mediocre bowling.
I'll raise another point. Kohli still shit? ? Made 45 against just bang average bowling once more. Although he was out to Lasith Embuldanaya, one of the only positives for Sri Lanka in the past sort of 3 years. Yeah, he's pretty good, but Kohli is not good.
Yeah, I remember I woke up in the morning and I was sort of flicking through the India cricket team story on Instagram, and it was stuff like, Vihari and Kohli building a partnership. I was like, oh Christ, Kohli might actually be in for a ton. Check the scorecard, 48. And he's just not the player he used to be, and it's sad to watch because he's an icon in cricket, and he's just shit now.
48 is still better than all of our top 6 sticks did.
Yeah, Dickens will stay away from that because it's not.
Yeah, but it's Sri Lanka though. When we toured to Sri Lanka, we had our top 6 making runs.
well, one of our top 6 making runs.
Yeah, shut up.
I think
He got double time. Jadeja didn't. Let's move on. Right, England warm-up game.
Oh yeah, God. My surprise from that was Lawrence. Jeez, what a player!
I'll take one. I'll quote myself here. When I saw Lawrence stride out for, I openly shouted, "Why the fuck is he here? He's so bad." He then went on to get, what was it, like 86 off 100? Played an amazing night. But I still think he's shit, and he'll probably do shit against the West Indies come some good bowling in a few days.
Yeah, they're always a bit of a farce, those warm-up games, aren't they? Because I mean, the President's 11, it's not going to be world-class cricketers. I mean, I think they had Dowrich behind the stumps. Like, he was a Test cricketer, but he was
dreadful.
He was crap. But you know, what was it? 5 of the top 6 got runs in the first innings, bar Ben Stokes, and we all know he can bat. It's good to see a proper opening partnership, some serious grit at the top from Alex Lees. You know, we've missed that a bit.
Thing is, you say it's good to see that. We've just had like 2 years of Dom Sibley doing that.
That's true, actually.
And then we canned him because he was so boring and terrible. And now we've got Alex Lees who's coming and looks to be doing exactly the same thing.
Dodging it out.
I feel like we're very picky of our openers. Like, the one I don't like Alex Lees purely because he doesn't have a backlift, but Dom Sibley had the biggest backlift I've ever seen. So I don't really know what I want. I just want, well, to be honest, I just want Strauss, but that's not happening. So
with opening batsmen, you need some good aesthetic shit, which just makes you feel good when at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning on the first day of a test. You just want some aesthetic stuff, some nice cover drives. Doesn't matter if they get runs or not. You just need something to look good. And I don't know whether Alex Lee's going to be that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Moeen Ali.
Exactly right. Get him back on the test side after his retiring.
So Lee's, I think he got. How did you get out in the first innings? Bowled.
Got bowled by an absolute nut by the spinner.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Second innings, it's just so reminiscent of every England opener.
Oh yeah.
12 innings, just slightly angled in, round the wicket, just nicks it, just straight to second slip.
I don't understand because so we say the Ashes, we had no warm-up games, therefore we helped us to lose worse. But now when we have a warm-up game, everyone's saying, the bowls are terrible, does nothing. Like, because there was basically it shows that in the Ashes we were making excuses. We were always going to lose, and we just needed something to clutch straws.
I think we're probably still going to lose here as well. You know, after this warm-up game, we didn't even beat them. It was a draw, but that's probably to do with weather and whatever. But
it helps. It helps. I mean, we probably would have still been beaten by Australia 4-0. I wouldn't. I mean, if we had one warm-up game against it, I don't know, the Australian President's 11, then we still would have lost most of those test matches because
we need our top order to just build a wall of defence. And talking of building walls, I think we should move on to one of our last topics of discussion, which is probably my favourite we've done so far. Do you want to introduce it?
So we've got an exciting one for you today, everyone. The Brexit 11. We've compiled a 11, well, a 12 actually. We've got a 12th man in here as well. We think the most Brexit cricketers are in history of the game. So should we talk through each decision we've made? Number 1, we have Michael Vaughan. I think it's clear to see why he's in there. Played at Yorkshire Cricket Club for a while. I think that's all we need to say.
I mean, nothing else needs to be said really. He was. What did he get? Yeah, he got sacked from BT because of some comments he made. So there's not really much more that needs to be said.
Don't respect him anyway. Like, he's arrogant. He thinks he's friends with everyone, but no one really likes him, and wasn't very nice to Azim Rafiq. So I think definitely deserves to be in this.
He's on the game side for sure.
Number 2, Jason Roy.
J. Roy. Now, we're basing this decision off a conversation with Mr. Lane, the club pro at Malta College, who basically called him a massive C word after he was done coaching in West Indies. Said he thought he owned the place, so that's why he's earned his place on the side there.
Yeah, but I also think the way he plays the game, like, pretty brutish. Like,
yeah.
He just sort of
if it's out, get him out. Kind of
Number 3, Joe.
Number 3. Now, this is probably the easiest pick in there. Gary Balance.
Last man on the team sheet.
Boo, disgusting.
Disgusting. Similar to Michael Vaughan, you know, he's been playing at Yorkshire Cricket Club for a number of years now. Pretty unpleasant as he Rafiq, and you know, just a bit of a coat in general.
Then the number 4, interestingly, he does play for Yorkshire, but he wasn't really involved in that scandal. But I think we've based this pick purely because he just looks like a Brexiteer, and he does bat like a Brexiteer as well, and his whole mannerism is just Brexity. He's definitely a Sean Dyche fan.
It's no nonsense. It's bludgeoning. It's blunt. It's Johnny Bairstow. That's who it is at number 4. Easy choice, I think, from us.
It is worrying how many Yorkshire cricketers we've got in this side. Just in general.
We say that's pretty. That's not a bad top 4, just in a normal cricket team.
Yeah, no,
I'm proud of Dickens.
I know, because regardless of what they've done, that is not a bad cricket team, and I wouldn't mind having that in a Test match. You know, not bad. Well, apart from Roy, that we saw how that turned out.
Number 5, Watson gone.
See, we put 5 and 6. I think 5 and 6 could be interchangeable. But number 5, we got Ian Botham. You know, obviously absolute class hand with the bat. Did wonders with the ball. You know, made things happen. But yeah, it's just something about him. Sort of heavy drinker, heavy smoker. Sort of just played the game as he fancied. Turn up to a game hungover because he was out on the lash the night before. It's just reminiscent of Ian Botham and how he played the game. So
he essentially epitomises that British culture.
Exactly.
And as we voted to leave the European Union, I think that's an appropriate decision to have him at number 5. Moving on, number 6, we have the man with the tattoo sleeves down to his wrist, Ben Stokes. Wonder cricketer, looks like a bit of a prick. That's why he's there.
Punched a locker and someone in a nightclub.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Actually, and also Alex Hales probably would have been a good person to get in this team as well. Actually, now thinking about it, I've forgotten about the nightclub thing, but Stokes.
Hell's
Yeah.
War at the top. That'd be pretty lethal.
God, maybe that's why we're so good at, because we just had so many Brexiteers in our World Cup team. Maybe that's why we were so good. I don't know.
Now, behind the stumps, we have an Australian who.
Accurate.
I don't know him personally, but he just seems like an arsehole, and he seems like he'd fit into this side perfectly. Brad had him. You know, he's got that classic Australian look where you can sort of see sand like gushing out his face, like he's just been on the beach all day, drinking a stabby, and just I don't know, kicking people or whatever.
I think he had a skinhead like the entirety of his career.
Yeah.
He was born with tattoos.
Yeah, maybe.
Classic C-word behaviour.
Exactly. Number 8, David Willey, another Yorkie. Just seems like a bit of a nasty bloke again. Seems
just
like
quite angry the entire time, old David Penis. He's just always shouting at people, and when he takes a wicket, he always overdoes it as well. And yeah, I think he epitomises the Brexit person we talk about here.
Tattoos as well. Big
Does he have
reason why he's in this team.
Willie doesn't have tattoos, does he?
Willie, yeah, I'm pretty sure he does.
I don't know whether he does.
Nah.
Yeah, with the way I'm visualising him, he does have tattoos.
I think you're visualising him wrong, my friend.
Well, whatever. He should be in the team because he's a nice bit of work.
Dickens, do you want to explain the next pick?
Number 9.
This is a big name.
It is a big name. Not surprisingly, it's to do with a mishap this summer. Not the Yorkshire thing, but similar. Ollie Robinson, bit trigger happy as a 17-year-old, 16-year-old.
Yeah, he's a keyboard warrior.
Yeah, a bit of a keyboard warrior, not very nice to people. Not the best debut for him. He taken 3 wickets on the first day. Probably really pleased with himself, gonna have a beer, talk to his mum and dad, and then he came back and then he found out that his tweets from 10 years before had been rooted out, and he was probably be banned. And tough shit for him, but great bowler, but a bit racist.
He slots in well to that side, I think. Provides a bit of variation. David Willey left hand, left arm, and then Ollie with the right. With a new ball, absolutely lethal.
And speaking of that variation, moving on to number 10, we've got a bit of a mystery spinner. He's done it for a number of years in the international scene. He's retired now, but he was a heck of a player. Harbhajan Singh.
Yeah.
Now he's in the side for a mishap over with Simons a few years back, and yeah.
I've got a Guardian article here, and the match referee said, "I'm satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that Harbhajan Singh directed the word monkey at Andrew Simons, and also that he meant to offend on the basis of Simons' race or ethnic origin." So pretty nasty stuff.
Well, there you go. Clearly, I'm facing the side.
Don't know about Harbhajan Singh. I think he slots in quite nicely to this.
Moving on to number 11. So we've got a lot of variation in this attack. We'll now go. So we've got the left arm of David Willey. We've got the seam up of Ollie Robinson. And now we're going to have a bit of slow ball variation with Jay Dunn back. Inventing that out the back of hand slow ball. Great player. Covered in tattoos, though.
Covered in tattoos. Probably without meaning as well. That's telltale signs, isn't it?
Telltale signs. A bit of a prick, clearly.
Right, and then number 12. It's slightly out of left field, before I reveal his name, he's number 12 is Ollie Dickens.
Seems like a Brexiteer, is a Brexiteer, epitomises the Brexit brand. Ollie the Meathead Dickens. He just looks like it. He's got it in his blood.
Yeah, exactly. Right, moving on, Dick of the Day. Obviously, new segment, but it's going to be a lot closer to home this week. We've got Ollie Dickens slotting in for his comments about Rabada, saying that he's finished as a Test cricketer and he doesn't bowl over 140, and then literally 2 days later went and took 9 in the match and he got man of the match. So
yeah, I've got a quote from you from the last podcast. Plain and simple, he's pretty shite, isn't he? So yeah, you couldn't have been more wrong, my friend.
I mean, he didn't get temper, so that's my only defense. Also, are New Zealand that good? I know they're like number 1 team in the world, but do we really overrate them a bit? No, I did say they were the best team in the world last time, but I've done a 180 for no reason.
I think what we need to take away is, we're not professionals. We don't really know what we're talking about. We just like the game. So
I think
take anything we say too seriously.
I think it's just cutting edge insight.
Saying that Rabada's shit and he doesn't bowl quick and he bowled unbelievably well.
Yeah, clearly great insight from you there, Dickens.
Right, I think that's about it for this ad. Anything more you boys like to add?
No, I'll just sign off. Say we've got an exciting video coming for you next week, where we'll hopefully have a special guest as well, which we'll announce close to the time. But we're getting it organised, we're getting it done, and we'll see you soon. Hopefully, you enjoyed this instalment of the Walking Wicket podcast.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, lads.